Ben, the leader of a Navy SEAL team, is preparing for a mission in Mosul, Iraq. His objective is to assist the Iraqi army in pushing ISIS forces out of the city. Soon, Ben's team joins the Iraqi soldiers, moving together along a river. The Iraqi commander, Durrani, explains that they are heading to a bridge for a hostage exchange. The plan is to trade 20 local captives for the ISIS deputy leader, Jabal, who is currently in their custody. When they reach the bridge, both sides disembark and bring Jabal forward. Moments later, the ISIS group arrives and insists that Jabal be released first. After tense deliberation, Durrani and Ben agree. Jabal is freed, and the hostages are released in return. As Jabal is picked up by a motorcycle and taken away, the situation suddenly turns violent. ISIS launches an ambush. A fierce battle erupts, echoing across the river.
Get that fucking 50 on land!
Troops in contact!
After a prolonged fight, Ben and Durrani's forces manage to defeat the attackers. But as they regroup, Ben spots several bombs planted on the bridge. Before anyone can react, the explosives detonate. The bridge collapses, killing many of their men. From that day, a dark mission began. The terminal list, Dark Wolf. 3 months later, Ben is stationed at an American base, now focused on training Iraqi soldiers. Since the explosion, he has devoted himself to improving their combat readiness. Major Salam, his Iraqi counterpart, assists him closely. Not long after, Ben's old friend James Reese arrives from the American military to support the training effort. Ben introduces him to Durrani, who has been discharged after losing a leg in the bridge explosion. Ben also spends time with Durrani's wife and child, who have become like family to him. The next day, a CIA official visits the base with new orders. Ben and James must track a man suspected of supplying weapons to ISIS. The target is believed to be hiding in a residential complex in Mosul. They are told to act quickly. Ben and James soon arrive near the target area, disguised as locals. But just as they prepare to enter, the CIA official contacts them to cancel the mission. Confused, they demand an explanation. The official admits that the target has relocated to another city. Frustrated, Ben and James return to the base. During the drive, Ben receives a call from Durrani. His voice trembles as he apologizes and begs Ben to protect his wife and child. Before Ben can ask what is happening, the call ends. Moments later at the base cafeteria, Durrani sits alone, avoiding everyone. Tears run down his face as he whispers another apology, then presses a remote control. A bomb detonates. 30 minutes later, Ben, James, and Major Salim arrive at Durrani's house, desperate to find his wife and children. The place is empty. Ben, who had been close to the family, feels a heavy sense of loss and disbelief, unable to understand why Durrani did it. They returned to the base and immediately held an emergency meeting with their commander. The commander suspected that Durrani had joined ISIS and intended to destroy the base. Ben disagreed. He argued that if Durrani were truly working for ISIS, he would not have detonated the bomb in a quiet corner, clearly avoiding civilian casualties. Ben believed there was a deeper reason behind his actions. Moments later, Major Salim arrived with several documents. Inside were photos and data on the explosives used in the attack. The materials matched the type often used by Jabal, the ISIS deputy leader. This evidence pointed to Jabal as the one who had forced Durrani into the bombing. Realizing this, Ben and James immediately began planning to hunt down the man they had once released. Ben requested authorization from the CIA officer and his superior to capture Jabal. They approved the mission on one condition: Jabal had to be taken alive. Although hesitant, Ben accepted and set the operation for the next day. That night, Ben, James, and their teammate prepared their strategy. They confirmed Jabal's hideout in a residential area on the outskirts of Mosul. At dawn, the team moved out. When they reached the neighborhood, they tried to enter through the main road but were intercepted by ISIS fighters loyal to Jabal. A brief but intense firefight broke out. Ben's team quickly eliminated the resistance and stormed into the compound. Inside, they captured Jabal without a struggle. While searching the area, Ben found two children wearing face coverings locked in one of the rooms. When he removed the veils, he froze. They were Dereni's children. One of them explained that their father had been forced to carry out the bombing. Jabal had threatened to kill his family if he refused. Even after Dereni obeyed, Jabal murdered their mother for defying him. Hearing this, Ben's anger took over. He executed Jabal on the spot. The team then returned to the base, bringing only Dereni's two surviving children. The next day, Ben, James, and the unit formed on the military field. The commander warned about the cost of disobeying direct orders. Skill did not excuse defiance of superiors. With regret, the commander announced Ben's discharge from the Navy SEALs for failing to follow orders. He had been ordered to bring Jabal back alive, but he killed him. James and the rest of the squad received temporary suspensions. Ben had led the mission. Hastings resigned from the SEALs. He said he refused to continue missions without Ben. Command accepted his resignation. Before they left for the United States, Ben thanked James for his loyalty. Ben and Hastings then flew by helicopter to the airport. Their flight to America stalled because of bad weather. They waited at the airport. Ben suggested a nearby bar to pass the time. At the bar, a man named Thomas approached. He already knew about Ben and Hastings' recent dismissal and about Jabal's death. Thomas claimed to work as a secret agent for the United Nations. He said he recruited skilled operatives for covert operations related to ISIS. He offered pay higher than military wages. Thomas outlined a mission to capture Masoud Danawi, an ISIS bomb maker. Ben accepted the offer without delay. Hastings asked for time to decide. Later, Hastings swam near the bar when Thomas spoke with him again. Hastings said he wanted a peaceful life and no more violent missions. Thomas argued a soldier like Hastings would struggle to stay away from violence. Those words changed Hastings' mind. He agreed to join the operation. The next day, Ben and Hastings flew to Thomas's headquarters in Austria, where they met his assistant to review the mission plan. Masoud Danawi was expected to meet buyers at a nightclub that night, and the objective was to capture him alive. An operative named Elisa, already undercover as a bartender, would assist with the operation. That evening, Ben and Hastings arrived at the nightclub and met Elisa in person. She quickly briefed them on the approach, planning to spike Danawi's drink with a strong laxative to lure him to the restroom, where Ben and Hastings would move in for the capture. Elisa began when Danawi sat at the bar. He grew suspicious and ordered Elisa to drink first. Elisa sipped the drink, and the drug took effect, forcing her toward the restroom. A guard followed her. Hastings moved silently and neutralized the guard. Minutes later, Elisa drank an antidote and rejoined the team. She reported Danawi preparing to leave the club. The team moved to the parking area. At that moment, Thomas called. The mission objective changed from capture to elimination. Ben, Hastings, and Elisa launched the assault. They cleared Danawi's guards with coordinated force. In the final moment, Hastings fired and killed Danawi. The mission ended. The next day, Ben and Hastings practiced shooting behind Thomas's headquarters. Thomas began planning the next operation. The scene cut to an ISIS leader meeting an Iranian official about a weapons deal. The discussion faltered because Danawi, the bomb maker, had disappeared. Thomas then expanded the team. Elisa drove a car to the compound. New recruits emerged, including Major Salim, an Iraqi officer. Salim had retired from the Iraqi military and joined Thomas's unit. Nisal, a former Special Forces soldier who once served under Ben, arrived next. The final recruit was Landry, a former elite sniper. The group formed a capable strike team. Before the briefing, Major Salim handed Ben a photo of Dereni's two children. Salim confirmed they had been sent safely to the United States. Ben expressed gratitude and promised to care for the children once he returned home. Thomas began the mission briefing. Danawi's phone contained two key messages, one from a woman arranging a meeting at a Budapest hotel, and another from a nuclear engineer proposing a deal 3 days later. Thomas instructed the team to pursue the Budapest lead first, then move on to the engineer. Soon after, Major Salim, Ben, and Hastings departed for Budapest. Upon arrival, Major Salim took a seat at a cafe near the target's location to monitor the woman scheduled to meet Danawi, while Ben and the rest of the team set up surveillance positions around the area. After observing her for a while, Salim reported to Thomas that the woman showed no signs of being a threat. Still, to avoid any risk, Thomas ordered her elimination. Later, the woman returned to her hotel. Salim followed her inside and entered her room ahead of her. When she saw him pointing a gun, she panicked. Salim questioned her about her connection to Danawi. She explained that Danawi was her father, and she had been searching for him since he went missing. Realizing she was innocent, Salim chose not to kill her. He told her that her father was dead and warned her to leave the country immediately. He then left the room, met an agent waiting outside, and pretended the mission was complete. With that, the first operation ended successfully. That night, the team regrouped at their basement safe house in Budapest. Thomas briefed them on the next mission. The target was a nuclear engineer they would meet the following afternoon. Salim would pose as Danawi's representative and negotiate the deal, while Ben and the others provided remote support. The next day, the team began surveillance on the professor. Using a phone, Salim contacted him and arranged a meeting at a nearby cafe. When the professor arrived, Salim introduced himself as Danawi's envoy, and the professor believed him. Salim asked if the professor had anything valuable to sell. The professor revealed a synthetic device capable of making uranium centrifuges spin faster, allowing a nuclear weapon to be completed in under a year. He set the price at $55 million and asked if Danawi planned to buy it. Understanding the device's importance, Salim agreed, but said the payment would come directly from Danawi. The professor accepted but refused to hand over the device until payment was confirmed. Meanwhile, Thomas initiated the transfer. The large sum caused a delay. During the transaction, a group of armed men appeared, attempting to seize the professor's device. Ben and his team were caught off guard, unsure who they were or how they found the meeting. Thomas ordered immediate engagement. Once the payment cleared, Salim secured the device and fled. Several attackers pursued him through the streets. He ran into a convenience store, grabbed a hammer, and took down two of them before Landry arrived in a car to extract him. Meanwhile, Ben was chasing another member of the enemy group into a crowded train station. Inside, he found one of his teammates, the curly-haired agent, sitting lifeless in a chair. Realizing the man he had been chasing was responsible, Ben immediately continued the pursuit. The killer boarded a moving train, and Ben followed. Once inside, he radioed Thomas's assistant to disable all onboard CCTV cameras. When the feeds went dark, Ben located the suspect and executed him in front of the passengers. He quickly photographed the body, exited the train, and disappeared before law enforcement arrived. The next day, Thomas packed the belongings of the fallen agent while Ben and Hastings stood nearby, mourning their teammate. Thomas reminded them that in their line of work, death was part of the job. There would be no funerals or public recognition, only silent remembrance among those still alive. Later, during lunch, Thomas examined the photo Ben had taken. It revealed that the attackers were members of the Iranian mafia led by a man named Khalid, a powerful crime boss involved in black market nuclear trafficking. This explained why Khalid had tried to seize the synthetic device. It was vital for building nuclear weapons. Yet one question lingered. How had Khalid learned about the deal in the first place? To eliminate the threat, Thomas ordered the team to ambush Khalid near the Swiss border, where he planned to conduct another nuclear transaction. Their objective was clear: kill Khalid and seize the materials. Hastings raised concerns about the tunnel location, but Thomas assured him the area was deserted. The team then began preparing for the mission. That night, while packing, Landry entered Thomas's assistant's room under the pretext of giving her a special weapon. She thanked him, unaware of his intentions. As he demonstrated the weapon, he made inappropriate advances. She immediately rejected him and forced him out. The disturbance drew the attention of the others. Elisa confronted Landry, restrained him, and warned him sharply never to repeat his behavior. The following day, Khalid traveled toward the tunnel for the transaction. As his convoy approached, it was halted by a traffic jam, an ambush set by Ben's team. Within minutes, Elisa and Ben neutralized Khalid and secured the suitcase containing the nuclear components. The mission appeared complete, but as they drove away, a missile struck the front of their vehicle. The explosion disabled the car but left the team alive. They exited quickly and were immediately ambushed by unknown attackers. A fierce firefight broke out, and during the exchange, Major Salim was shot in the stomach. Ben ordered part of the team to evacuate with him, while he and Elisa escaped through an underground passage carrying the suitcase with the nuclear materials. As they ran through the tunnel, Ben and Elisa tried to stay ahead of their pursuers. But without warning, Elisa turned her gun on Ben and shot him, taking the suitcase for herself. In that moment, it became clear she had been a traitor all along. At headquarters, Thomas noticed something strange with his phone. Despite charging it all morning, the battery had not increased. When he opened the device, he found a small hacking chip hidden inside. The discovery confirmed his suspicion. The traitor within his team was Elisa. Meanwhile, Ben regained consciousness. The bullet had struck his vest, leaving him bruised but alive. Determined, he got back on his feet and began tracking Elisa, who was still nearby. Elsewhere, Hastings interrogated one of the surviving attackers in a warehouse. He demanded to know who had sent them, but the captive refused to speak and died under questioning. Elisa later checked into a hotel, unaware that Ben had already found her location. As soon as she opened her room door, Ben entered and aimed his weapon at her. Before she could respond, a group of armed men stormed the hallway and opened fire. Outnumbered, Ben and Elisa fought side by side until the last attacker fell.
Stay in your room! Crash!
After the gunfight, Ben cornered Elisa at the edge of the hotel and demanded the truth. She finally confessed that she was a Mossad agent from Israel. Her mission was not to steal the nuclear components, but to expose Thomas's true identity. Her agency suspected he was secretly working with a rogue organization called the Spread. The Spread was a breakaway faction from Israel that aimed to destabilize global powers, especially the United States. They were collecting nuclear materials to sell on the black market, disregarding the consequences. Elisa explained that she had never intended to betray Ben. If she had wanted him dead, she would not have aimed for his vest. She asked him to keep her secret and help her expose Thomas. She also revealed that Thomas's assistant, Susan, was another Mossad operative. Ben hesitated, then agreed. He brought Elisa to an abandoned mall where they could hide and recover. The next day, Susan conducted her own covert mission. She monitored the apartment of a known member of the Spread. When he left, she entered, hacked his laptop, and copied all the files. The man returned unexpectedly and attacked her. But she shot him and escaped with the data. Meanwhile, Ben and Elisa drove a stolen car through the countryside. During the ride, Ben asked if Thomas might have already discovered her identity. Elisa admitted she wasn't sure, but hoped he never would. Not long after, they were caught in heavy traffic and forced to stop. Suddenly, a motorbike pulled up beside them. The rider attached a bomb to their car and sped away. Seconds later, the vehicle exploded. Ben survived, disoriented, but alive. He shot the fleeing motorcyclist, then rushed to check on Elisa. To his shock, she was dead, her body burned beyond recognition. Minutes later, Ben stood alone in a public restroom, cleaning his wounds. The loss hit him hard. Elisa had died before uncovering the truth about Thomas's identity. Meanwhile, Susan waited at a train station, lost in thought. When a news report announced Elisa's death in the bombing, she froze in disbelief. Grief overwhelmed her as she realized Elisa was gone. Later, Ben returned to Thomas's base with the recovered nuclear component. The team was already assembled, including Thomas. Without hesitation, Ben confronted him about working with the Spread. Thomas admitted he had once been involved but claimed he had left after realizing their plan to destroy the world. He then led the team to a holding room where a man sat bound to a chair. Thomas identified him as the leader of the Spread, the one behind the recent attacks. Thomas demanded the man confess his crimes in front of everyone. After the confession, Thomas shot him dead. 20 minutes later, Thomas briefed the team on their next assignment. They were to sell the recovered nuclear components to the Iranian defense minister. He insisted this would keep the materials under government control and prevent them from falling into the wrong hands. The deal was set for the following morning at a remote airstrip. After the briefing, Hastings abruptly decided to quit. Ben followed him outside and demanded to know why. Hastings said he was done and refused to take part in another questionable mission. He strongly opposed selling the components to Iran. Ben admitted he disagreed as well, but hinted that he had another plan. Despite this, Hastings refused to stay. He declared he was going home to America and officially left the team. Elsewhere, Susan rested in her hotel room. Her superior called to inform her that the investigation into Thomas was over. The agency had confirmed that Thomas killed the man identified as the spread's leader, clearing him of suspicion. After the call, Susan opened the laptop she had taken from a member of the spread. Inside, she found encrypted messages showing ongoing communication between Thomas and the real leader, Netta. At that moment, she realized the truth. The man Thomas had killed was not the spread's true leader, and Thomas was still working with Netta. The next day, Ben, Major Salam, and Landry drove to the airstrip to meet the Iranian defense minister. The minister arrived with an escort of soldiers. Ben, Salim, and Landry confirmed the components. The minister transferred payment to Salim. Then, Ben received a message from Susan. The photo showed Thomas meeting Nita, the real leader of the spread. The image exposed a plot. Thomas stayed loyal to Nita. They sold the components to the Iranian minister to speed a nuclear build. When the weapon became operational, they intended to push the minister to attack the United States, sparking a global war. Ben and his team moved instantly. They exited the car and opened fire on the minister's plane. The team eliminated the minister and his guards. Ben recovered the nuclear component. He left with Salim and Landry to confront Thomas at headquarters. Thomas had already vanished.
All clear.
A message from him warned that Ben and the team would soon be branded fugitives. Thomas framed them as terrorists who stole the components. Susan arrived and pointed out the wider danger. She proposed the team split up and hide until the chaos subsided. Ben, Salim, and Landry agreed and dispersed. A month passed. James, still at the American base in Iraq, read a letter from Ben. Ben detailed his fall from the SEALs, his work with Thomas, and the framing that made him a fugitive. Ben hid in a remote cabin. After a month alone, he stopped hiding from reality. He set traps around the property. He assembled explosives and weapons. He prepared for a fight. Ben phoned James. James believed his innocence and pledged help. Ben warned the war had begun. He then contacted Susan and urged action. Susan advised caution. Ben insisted on striking back. By activating his phone, Ben intentionally exposed his location, knowing it would draw them in. As expected, Thomas and Netta detected the signal, and Thomas dispatched a strike team to eliminate him. A few hours later, Ben sat outside his cabin, smoking and waiting calmly for their arrival. Soon, dozens of Thomas's mercenaries surrounded the area and opened fire. Ben grabbed his weapons, and the battle began. The traps he had prepared worked perfectly, taking down many attackers one by one. But their numbers kept increasing. Overwhelmed, Ben was forced to retreat into the forest while continuing to fire at his pursuers. Eventually, he was hit several times and collapsed. Just as one mercenary moved in for the kill, reinforcements arrived. James and his Navy SEAL unit. They quickly eliminated the remaining enemies. James carried Ben back to the cabin and treated his wounds. Ben, weak but alive, handed James the suitcase containing the nuclear component, saying it would be safer with him. Days later, Ben, Major Salam, Landry, and Susan reunited to plan their final move against Thomas. Susan outlined 3 main targets: Netta, Thomas, and Netta's right-hand man. Ben then started coordinating their strategy and gathering information. Landry went undercover at a spa, posing as a massage therapist. His client turned out to be Netta's right-hand man, whom he swiftly killed during the session. Meanwhile, Major Salim monitored Netta from a distance. When Netta left a soccer field after watching his son play, Salim discreetly planted a bomb on his car. At the same time, Thomas arrived home, unaware that Ben was waiting inside. When Thomas entered, Ben confronted him but offered a chance to explain. Thomas revealed his motive. In the 1990s, his parents were killed in a bombing falsely blamed on Iranian terrorists. The real perpetrators had been the American military, which staged the attack to frame Iran. From that day, Thomas swore revenge. As a United Nations agent, he used his position to manipulate global operations and help Iran build nuclear weapons, hoping to turn them against the United States. Ben understood Thomas's pain but could not accept his actions. Moments later, police sirens echoed outside. Ben told Thomas that the officers were there for him and walked out as the police stormed the house. Soon after, Ben went to CIA headquarters and handed over all evidence of Thomas's crimes, clearing his own name. A month later, Ben received a visit from the head of an American Special Task Force. The man offered him a position on his elite team. At first, Ben refused, wanting a peaceful life at sea. But after some thought, he accepted the offer. Weeks later, Ben completed a full medical and psychological evaluation, followed by a computerized honesty test. He passed every stage successfully and was officially sworn in as a special agent of the United States. The end. So the moral of the story is, if your mission keeps changing every 5 minutes, someone's probably lying to you, so maybe don't trust your boss, your bartender, or anyone offering just one last job.